Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big day in the UK yesterday, but the show goes on, and with all the talk over the last couple of weeks about player salaries and Hydra getting paid X amount, the second highest paid player in the league after none other than King Scumpy himself, Scump has actually gone on to reveal that he may be getting willingly underpaid by Hex and OpTic for whatever reason. Could he potentially change his mind if he needs extra incentive to stay competing? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Really does help out the channel. Thanks very much indeed for doing that one. Let's just crack straight on with things. Firstly, this from the CDL. The resurgence thing is back. This, I think we talked about last year. Whatever this is, you can actually sign up for this and try and qualify and get involved. I think last year, aBeZy won with whatever his team was at the time, and they've now given him his trophy, and it's kind of funny, really. The trophy that they've given him for this is just way better. Because I'm imagining this lights up or whatever. You put this on this wall, I'm guessing it lights up. I imagine this looks way cooler than, what at least they get for the CDL stuff. Actually, yeah, I found another trophy here that Husker's got. I mean, look how cool this thing looks. And last year, or whatever they gave out for the actual CDL event, well, first of all, they needed to give out a trophy for the CDL events, and then finally, once they decided to, they just sent them to the actual places of these guys, and I guess it took them a year to come up with this, so fair enough. But still, I mean, look, if the CDL's making these, you'd think they could make something pretty cool for the actual event, rather than just forcing the teams to make their own thing. But in fairness, the teams making their own thing is probably to the better, right? Because we actually get some interesting variations on the trophies that we saw for this season's events. This also to mention on the Rostermania side, to as Toronto say tomorrow, effectively, there's going to be probably some sort of announcement. Will it be the entire roster announcement? Who knows? We expect it to be Inside, Scrappy, Standy, and Kleenex, of course. Now, the funny thing is actually about this is that, some people follow the mums of the players on social media, and it turns out they were having a bit of a talking point here. So this is Standy's mother, this is Priest's mother, and they always have this a mama attached thing as well. It's the same thing for her, which I always think is kind of funny. But anyway, as is described right here, one of these franchises is going to announce their new rosters. Don't believe anything until I see actual proof. So frustrating. Priest's mother says it takes time. It's a team effort from several different parties, etc., etc., not to mention the hard work. And then Stanley's mum goes on to say, understanding the logistics of it, I'm truly just an excited mum. Also, when eLLeY, that being Stanley, joined Rokkr, he told me on a Thursday night, and I was driving him to the airport less than 36 hours later. All the best to Preston and yourself this season. I'm excited to see him fight this year. So pretty much confirming, right, that, the announcements are in the works or coming soon, right? Just basically saying, come on, can they just not hurry up and announce him? So thought this was pretty funny, really, that, various sources suggesting that indeed things are pretty much get confirmed at this point. So yes, Priest to New York, we believe, Stanley to Toronto Ultra. Maybe that will be confirmed today. Maybe it won't. Who exactly knows? This also an update on the London side, because apparently Crone updated his article just to say that he's actually giving question marks to all of these guys now. He really doesn't know what the plan is with London here, what they're planning to do. They're actually going down. Honestly, I feel like Vegas Legion's roster is more locked in right now than London's is. But, maybe they're just keeping things quiet. Now, look, what will they do? Because Gizmo apparently won't be there and Paulex is there instead, but that still may or may not happen. Crone actually updated kind of what was described here, because Afro, of course, is gone. The thing is for London, right, you've got to find an appropriate replacement for Afro. It's obviously going to be difficult to replace Afro, but Wardy is such an obvious no-brainer option, right? He's considered one of the best SMG players, not only in the challenger side in the world, but certainly in the European side. That to me is an absolute no-brainer to try and get Wardy into your team. Then what you do with the rest of the squad is a bit of a question. Do you keep Zero? I think you probably... I don't mind this squad of 3 just plus Wardy, to be perfectly honest. He reckons that at least 2 of Zero, Nasty, and Gizmo will return, with the possibility of all 3. I can't imagine they're going to have these 3 guys plus Paulex, because there's just no SMGs, really, unless you want to put Zero on an SMG again, which he can run, but it's obviously not the most optimal team setup. So hopefully London come to their senses and make a sensible move here. But look, we'll see what they decide to do. Afro, of course, got a better offer and decided to leave. But, of course, London is still going to try and bring up some talent, which they've done a relatively good job of the last few years. I definitely think keeping Nasty is a good decision as well, because I think he should only get better as time progresses. This also on the Rostermania, Coachmania front from Sam Phoenix, coach, of course, for the Seattle Surge last season. We saw yesterday that he signed a contract and removed Surge from his bio. I was thinking, yeah, maybe he's just baiting around here. Indeed, that was the case. He's going to be back on Seattle Surge next season. This does raise interesting questions, though, about the rest of the coaching market, just because Phoenix apparently was maybe going to go to Toronto. I think I heard that, or maybe Phoenix to New York, or I'm not exactly sure what was going on there. But Toronto, they don't necessarily have a head coach right now if Marky B is going to go. Maybe we might expect now Marky B to go the way of Los Angeles Guerrillas. We don't know what Sender's going to do. So it's a bit interesting, because Toronto, I honestly think if that Toronto team of the personalities that they now have with, you know, no clear team culture that's coming in, like, you know, 2 European guys, 2 North American guys, Scrappy's, you know, pretty loud fella, like, obviously things could get a little bit interesting with the chemistry on that team, to be honest. I think they're going to need a strong coaching staff to make that happen. And with no Marky B, and with no Sam Phoenix, like, yeah, it might be a bit of a difficulty, right? So who are Toronto deciding to get if they don't keep Marky B? Because I think Marky B has said that he's technically still under contract, but he wants to leave and has been effectively given the freedom to look for other offers. And you'd imagine he might get some given the success he's had with that Toronto roster over the last couple of years. So I guess we'll stay tuned for that one and what might potentially be happening. This I thought was pretty funny as well. The aBeZy Institute, the University of Rotations. This, I believe, I don't know if t-shirts are coming soon or already available on the Breaking Point website for this, but stay tuned for that one. GP on GD as per usual on the accuracy side. Let's talk Scump then, right? And of course, all this talking point the last few days. Is he going to stay? How long is he going to stay around for? And also, what does the salary look like for a guy like Scump, but also for the other guys in the league? How much is Scump actually getting paid? How much of it is like his player salary? How much of it is like his content salary, his bonuses, like all the other sponsorship stuff he has? Of course, Scump's making a lot of money, and, you know, rightfully so. He absolutely deserves to and has done so much for our scene over many years. But, you know, the question's always there. How much is he actually making? How much is he making relative to the other players in the league? This type of stuff. And apparently they've managed to convince Methods to fly out to Vegas for the UFC tonight, which is kind of incredible. And, you know, even as Dashy says, he was kind of surprised he didn't get an invite to the World Series of Warzone, but Scump and the boys, they held it down. Wasn't, of course, the ideal result at the end of the day, but Scump can go for their, you know, 2 out of 3, I suppose, next year. But that's the thing where we're kind of wondering, like, Scump's obviously hoping, as we saw last night, the fact that Warzone will hopefully be running on the same engine as the new title, Modern Warfare 2, at least Warzone 2 will. Therefore, they can play both at the same time at this type of stuff. But there was a bit of an indication here as to exactly what Scump may or may not be making. So they were doing this OpTic podcast last night because I think the Rangers OpTic thing is happening in a couple of days. It might be on the 20th or something. It's in a few days' time they're doing it, and they held a podcast actually in the stadium. I thought it was pretty cool. Now, they were talking about Top Gun Maverick, right? Obviously, fantastic film from this year, and they were discussing what they thought about the film and stuff. And Scump was like, I think maybe the implication was that Scump had bought the film, but he was basically buying it on like Hex's Netflix account or something, right? Whatever account they've got. I think Scump is using Hex's one, which is kind of typical Scump, right? Because if you know anything about this guy, yes, he obviously has a lot of money, but you know, Scump's pretty frugal, right? He doesn't like to spend too much money if he can potentially avoid it. So the fact that he's sharing Hex's like Netflix account, I thought was pretty funny in the first place. Or whatever account he's sharing to be buying movies effectively in Hex's name rather than his own. And then Hex is like, look, come on, yeah, surely it's time for you to get your own account so you can buy your own movies. And he's like, look, I'll give you some extra money. But Scump's sitting there like, look, I can't afford to do that because you don't pay me enough money, right? Effectively saying that he chooses to get maybe underpaid to his value. Could that maybe change in the future?
Yeah, he gave it movie of the year.
It's the best movie I've seen in a while.
Yeah, no, it was
Did
incredible.
Sing 2 come out this year?
Jesus Christ. Seth, if you're going to buy those movies, buy those on your own account.
No.
I hate logging on and seeing...
Liv won't watch it?
Do you guys share one?
Liv won't watch it?
No. She's not on the same account as I am. They got their own little...
But she wouldn't watch that type of movie?
I don't know, but she's not on my account, so don't buy it on my account.
I think it is out, though. I think I saw it on
Yeah, that
Apple
movie
TV.
was insane.
How did we agree on you sharing on my thing and on me only the one that pays for the movies?
Because I could ask for a lot more, but I don't.
What the does that mean? Oh, you mean you mean salary? How about this? Ask for an additional. How many movies do you buy a month?
Not a lot. I slowed down.
Well, how many? Let's just say this.
I slowed down.
How many? Just
10?
give me
A
10?
month? No, like
Right.
maybe 10 a year.
Okay, I'm gonna add.
Maybe 10 to 15 a
I'm
year.
gonna add an extra $200 a month to your salary, and then you buy all the movies from here on out.
Nope.
Unreasonable.
So with all the rumors coming out recently about what's going on with Hydra, and my understanding is now with Hydra is maybe just because the competition isn't there so much for him, I don't think he's going to get paid $500k a year. It's going to be more of a reasonable, like lower end of the kind of 6-figure numbers, maybe, you know, 300, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't think it's going to be quite as much as was initially rumored. But the initial discussion was some guys like Ben that he'd been offered like 400, 500k, probably to try and make sure that Hydra didn't go to another team. But Hydra, if he got the OpTic offer, which was on the table, then like he would have just left even if they paid him less money, and he would have probably wanted to go to FaZe even for less money anyway. Now those offers of course disappeared for him, and even if there was an offer from FaZe in the first place, which just doesn't really seem like there is, now Hydra's only realistic option is the subliners, therefore they're probably not going to pay him quite as much money as maybe was initially discussed. But regardless, Hydra's still getting paid a bag. We know that Crim6 last year was getting paid 380k, like that must have put him up there with one of the highest paid players, and our expectation is that pretty much guys guys like Simp and Scump and these players are on 500k plus. We really don't know like how far above that Scump is, if at all, and he's kind of implying here that he reckons that he's getting paid less by Hex than he necessarily deserves. Maybe that's on just like pure CDL contract stuff, or maybe that's elsewhere. In terms of like content bonuses or whatever Scump might potentially get on top of what his base salary is. So I thought it was interesting, right, that Hex seemed pretty willing to, you know, up his salary by a certain amount so he could buy the movies, but also, like, I mean, look, we saw just the other day that the Hex was kind of saying in this episode, like, okay, you've committed to one more year, hopefully you reconsider. And, you know, obviously, like, Hex wants to see Scump stay around as long as is reasonably possible. And if Scump says to Hex, like, look, if you want me to stay around, you're going to have to bump this salary up to, you know, I don't know, 700, 800k a year or whatever it might be. Like, if Scump says, look, maybe bump the salary numbers up a bit and I'll keep competing for one more season, then, you know, Hex might be inclined to do that, right? So we'll see how it goes. But I thought the words from Scump were kind of interesting there when he's suggesting that his salary might not be quite as high as it maybe could be or deserves to be, such that he can't even afford to buy movies on his own account. But, I mean, obviously, look, he's making enough money anyway, right? In theory. I mean, he's even got this partnership going on with AimLab that he announced yesterday. So I think he did one even with, was it Masterclass? He did one with Masterclass or something a while ago, which is really incredible as well. But, you know, he's got this on the go. So, I mean, yeah, there's another, like, partnership the Scump's got in the works. Pretty cool start. I'm guessing he brought in, like, the Oakley arrangement as well to OpTic, which I think then expanded just from Scump to, like, the entirety of the OpTic brand. So obviously that was a, you know, big win for them as an organization. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know what you guys think about this. How much is Scump actually on? He's given some hints as to what it might be. As I say, the rumor has it that a lot of the other players, like Crim said actually going into, was it Modern Warfare, if he'd have stayed on OpTic and was on like Chicago Huntsman or whatever it would have been at the time if the team didn't have the falling out effectively at the end of Black Ops 4, he said he'd have been on double what he was on last year on the Subliners. That puts him at about 750k, which is absolutely absurd, right? So maybe that's what Scump's on, who knows? I think the rumors have kind of been going around that Simp is on like, you know, 500 grand or something, and then Hydra would kind of join him on some of those numbers if indeed he was going to get paid what he was expected to get paid by New York Subliners, but then, you know, Scump's still a bit higher than that. But of course, if maybe he wants to keep competing, because that's also the thing with Scump, right? He knows if he goes and does content, if he goes and does Warzone and stuff, like, and all the potential partnerships and Twitch streaming revenue and stuff that he can have because of that, like, you know, that puts him probably, he's thought in his head what that looks like in terms of a yearly number, and therefore he might be saying to Hex at some point, well, look, if you want me to stay around competing for one more season, you're going to have to match whatever I might make doing this. That might kind of be what he's implying here, but definitely tweet your thoughts in the comment section below. A few things to mention before we close out the video. Firstly, the full season card for iLLeY last year. I guess this is a LAN card actually, because 12-6 must just be his record on LAN, I'm pretty sure, but pretty good numbers on the whole. I mean, for iLLeY's role, obviously, this is pretty much what you might expect in fairness. Some good impact, right? His control wasn't so good this season, but the other game modes were pretty solid. Yeah, tough time, of course, that iLLeY had. Major 2 already. His kind of hand injuries were starting to occur. But from a purely stats perspective, this actually might be iLLeY's best season so far in the CDL, because usually he's good for a 0.95, 0.96, something like that. But I think some teams might say, look, your flex player needs to do a lot of slaying. But when you've got Dashy and Shotzzy and Scump, you usually can get away with it. And of course, they managed to get an event victory this year when iLLeY did really turn up to a new level. And just a fun fact to close out the video, this I thought was kind of remarkable, that Damakama Barlow, the 3-time world champion, still the only 3-time world champion to have done it all on LAN, every single time he won, Black Ops 2 in 2013, Ghost in 2014, and 2017 Infinite Warfare when he was on OpTic, he beat Envy every single time. Freako beat Envy, Complexity beat Envy, and OpTic beat Envy in the grand final. So crazy stuff, but very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always, take care, and I'll see you next time.